So after 2 years of waiting for this film and obsessing and carrying on about how this film is going to be great compared to Civil War, Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, Doctor Strange and Deadpool. I mean, this is my most anticipated film of the year if you see my top 10 anticipated films of 2016. So here's my video of my review of my most anticipated film, X-Men Apocalypse, directed by Bryan Singer. Word to your mother, guys. So I've seen this film twice and straight off the bat, this film is good. Just good, but it is a disappointment in a way, considering you have Bryan Singer, one of the best comic book directors who's done the 3 best great X-Men films, and you have the creative team from Fox. And Fox had amazing track record if you consider that Marvel and DC are doing great, but Fox is kind of getting in there in that 2-way battle to make a 3-way battle, and Fox has had an amazing track record ever since First Class back in 2011. We also had The Wolverine, we had Days of Future Past, which was fantastic, and we also had Deadpool, which is, I think it's good, but it is a critical and financial success. Pardon? No, we don't talk about that film. Shut up. No, go away, we don't talk about that film. That film never existed. Now go. Sorry. Let's start off with the things I loved about this film. Michael Fassbender, not because I have such a man crush on him, because I think he just plays a great performance better than what he did in Days of Future Past. He plays Eric Lancher flawlessly, and he really portrays his grief and rage in this film. And he has this such emotional scene in the beginning when he's kind of settled down, he has a family now, he has a daughter and a wife, but something turned during halfway through the film, and people betray him and his family get murdered. Sorry, spoilers, and it starts there, and he becomes one of the Four Horsemen. And I actually liked him as the Four Horsemen. Really, it's 50-50 with me about the new Horseman, Four Horsemen. But oh my God, Michael Fassbender, he just owns this character, and at the end, you see a bit more lighter to him, and you wonder where he goes from there. Does he become a bit more of a good guy now, or does he become back to his normal self again? I just love Michael Fassbender as Magneto in this film. Really dig about the film, and I was really worried about this. It's the new cast, the younger cast of the X-Men. You have Sophie Turner as Jean Grey, and she just got such a great dramatic performance in this film. If you've seen her in Game of Thrones, she just suits this role into Jean Grey, and I really look forward to what she can do. And Cyclops, he's quite good. I kind of like him more than his counterpart in the original X-Men films, but I kind of really liked him in his portrayal. He's kind of a bit more of a emotional in this. I really like Storm. I think she's better than Halle Berry. Nightcrawler I liked, but I kind of miss Alan Cumming in X-Men 2. But there's things I liked about him. I think it wasn't his performance, it was more the portrayal. It was a bit more of a comedy emo-like. But I liked it. And Quicksilver, played by Evan Peters, I mean, he's so great. I mean, you've seen him in X-Men Days of Future Past. He's just great in this film, and just brings a bit more comedy to this film. And especially that fight scene with Apocalypse, that was kind of kick-ass. Hands down, the best scene to this film is the Quicksilver scene, of course, because it just has a different feel. I mean, 10 seconds before the Quicksilver scene starts, you have a different feeling because of a bit more of a struggled warriorness between the battle between Apocalypse and the Four Horsemen, and with the X-Men. Then, you know, with the mansion exploding, you go to a quickly different feel, and it just has a bit more fun, and you get to hear this quite good 80s soundtrack with it. And it's just so much better than the Days of Future Past scene. I'm not saying it's way better, I'm saying it's superior and longer. And it's funny and it's clever, and I believe it's like very difficult to do because it takes like 3 days to do, but this is probably the best scene to this film. The first hour of the film I really liked. You got to introduce the new X-Men, you get to have this cool pre-title sequence, which I think it was awesome. You get to see this ritual, and you get to see the original Four Horsemen, and you get to see this like transfer to another body, and you get to see the kind of portrayal of his soldiers, and I really like that, and I wish we could have got more to an Apocalypse backstory to this. I just thought it was pretty awesome. I'm not really into like Egyptian films really. I like The Mummy and I like that, but there's not many films that go into that. If you see like Gods of Egypt and other films like that, they suck really. But this one I was quite intrigued, and I wish we could have got like maybe a bit more into depth with it, a bit more about like another 20 minutes, because I kind of, not 20 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, but I kind of like that. I kind of like the 80s style of it, considering it's the 80s of course, but they really handled it really well, and I kind of think I like the bright colours to this, I think considering it's the 80s of course, but I also like that little joke in when Scott, Jubilee, Jean Grey and Nightcrawler come out of Return of the Jedi back in 1983, they make a quick joke saying the third's always the worst. I think that's referring to Last Stand. I think that's already considering to itself really, if you think about it. But I kind of like that 80s look to it. I mean, if you think about it, they're kind of jumping into like 10 years. Like you had 60s, 70s, now you're going to 80s. The next one is going to be in the 90s. So I kind of dig this 80s look to it. I kind of like the bright costumes and the production designs. Now let's go to the things I really didn't like in this film, guys. Now Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique, she was so boring in this film. I'm sorry, but she was. She felt so uninspired in this film, and she kind of plays the same portrayal of this character over and over again. You could tell that she was getting sick of this franchise, like she did in the last Hunger Games film. But why would she? I mean, she doesn't have to come back to this, and they could easily recast her. And without X-Men First Class, she wouldn't be the popular she would be today. So I was a bit disappointed in Mystique's portrayal from Jennifer Lawrence. She was like, "You're all X-Men." She was like that, I'm sorry, but I really didn't like Jennifer Lawrence. I love Jennifer Lawrence as an actress. Now don't get me wrong, I love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. I think he's one of the best casting choices in a comic book character. But he really didn't need to be in this film. If you think about it, really. He had it was nothing special about his sequence, really. It was more for the sake of like hinting the new X-Men film. If you see that mid-credit scene in the base, it's kind of like referring to Mr. Sinister, but that's really it. But Hugh Jackman, Wolverine, he was so boring. He just felt like it felt a bit weird interacting with Sophie Turner, Jean Grey. It felt a bit off because he's old enough to be her granddad, and I just didn't like this portrayal of Wolverine. I mean, we've seen this like unleashed, confused Wolverine in like so many movies before, so I think I just had so many problems with the Hugh Jackman as Wolverine in this film. But I am so looking forward to Wolverine 3 and his last performance. That's it. But it just felt like every X-Men film needs to have a Wolverine cameo. I love the cameo in First Class, don't get me wrong, but this one just felt like, oh my god, really? We know how he escapes. He really doesn't need to come back. It just felt like this is probably his weakest portrayal as Wolverine in all of the X-Men films. Now the biggest problem to this film is Apoclypse and his Four Horsemen. Considering you have Oscar Isaac, who did a great performance in Ex Machina and Force Awakens, you expect high hopes for this film. And I didn't mind the design of Apocalypse, I kind of dig that. But it was more of the portrayal of Apocalypse. He didn't really do anything half the time. He kind of got, half the time he was upgrading his Four Horsemen, and he was kind of like doing rituals, transferring to one body to another, really. And you kind of get a few action sequences, but that's about it. But half the time he just whispers like this, "You're all my children. We will cleanse this world." That was it. And considering Apocalypse is equivalent to Thanos and Darkseid, he's a bit of a disappointment. The Four Horsemen, I really dig the original Four Horsemen. I really wish they could have been the main Four Horsemen to this film. But Michael Fassbender, he was a great horseman. Storm was a great horseman. It was more of Psylocke. Psylocke really had like 2 lines in this film. And I don't know how she got upgraded, really. She only had like flames coming out her knives. And it was crap, really. And considering I liked the leather bikini that she was wearing, that was it. But it just looked a bit out of place. Archangel in this film, I was really hoping they'd do this character right, unlike they did with Last Stand. He's played by Ben Hardy, who's from EastEnders. I will say this, he's an improvement over the Last Stand version, but that's it, really. I find him with a bit more of a disappointment. He started off great, really. He kind of plays this drunk fighter, And then his wings get damaged, then he gets metal wings, but then he doesn't really do anything at that point. He just gets some action sequences, and I wish they kept him, really. I feel like he would have been a great Angel if he becomes good and works in the X-Men. But I really think they really did wrong with this character again. But he's an improvement over the Last Stand counterpart. Magneto as his dad didn't really need to be there because there wasn't any conclusion. They kind of saved it up for the next X-Men film, which I was really hyping over that. But they really kind of felt like, oh, okay, we kind of knew that from the previous X-Men film, that you know that he's your dad, but they don't do anything much here. And that's the problem I had with this film, is because of the time jumps, really. These characters don't look that different. Consider Days of Future Past takes 10 years before, and it takes place 20 years before. And the characters still look the same ever since 20 years, and they still look that different. And that was my really big issue. They really could have done some grey hair, or maybe just make them look older, but they still look like they're in their late 20s or early 30s, considering especially Eric and Charles. They still look the same. Beast looks the same. And I know Havoc looked the same with a mullet now. But that's really it. That's my problems with this film. I really hope they can change. When they do jump to the 90s, they kind of look a bit way more older when they get to their 50s. But it just didn't make any sense. They still look the same. It was like they just didn't want all that makeup on them. So my overall thoughts, guys, considering this is definitely a step back from the last two great X-Men films, but there are some things to enjoy in this film, but this was my most anticipated film of the year. And for that, I got to give it a 7.25 out of 10. I still think it's a good film, but it should have been great. It should have been like 9 out of 10. But this is just so... I still got to pick up on Blu-ray and watch it, but I don't know where I would rank it in my X-Men films. I think this is definitely like in my... It's definitely not in my top 4, but it's definitely not in my bottom 2. So it's kind of like fighting in the middle. It's fighting between the Wolverine, the first X-Men film, and then you got X-Men Apocalypse. But I got to pick it up on Blu-ray. Then I'm going to do like my top rankings of the X-Men films. But let's talk about the future of X-Men. We all know the next X-Men film, we don't know the release date of it, but we know it's going to take place in the 90s, and it makes sense since this is a 10-year jump. But I feel like, I don't know what you could do with this. They're saying they're going to go into space, and that sounds like a good idea. We've never seen that kind of thing before. We've seen time travel, we've seen gods, so let's do outer space for God's sake. We might get Mr. Sinister, but maybe that could be in Wolverine 3. And do I want a Wolverine in this film? No, considering Hugh Jackman's going to leave after this Wolverine film. So I feel like just do something good with the new cast, because I really like the new cast of X-Men. And I just loved everything about the new cast. So I kind of feel they fit really well if they kind of focus more into them. And I feel like I'm still a big X-Men fan, of course, and I'm still looking forward to it. And I definitely don't think it should be rebooted, because it'd be silly, it'd be kind of a wasting 16 years of X-Men. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. Go check out my other videos. Go check out my Twitter page and my Facebook page. I'll send the links down below. And I'll also be making some other videos soon with my Ninja Turtle Out of the Shadows review. And I'm going to do my top 5 Pixar films. So go check it out, guys. I'll see you guys soon. I got your back.